Back in 2004, only 2% of women worldwide considered themselves beautiful. The beauty industry was literally destroying the trust that it needed to be able to build. Enter Dove. Instead of chasing perfection with words like anti-aging or flawless, they launched the campaign for real beauty. They showed everyday women, people with wrinkles, curves, cellulite, grey hair, and they swapped flawless for words like real, authentic, and beauty your way. It was a total pattern interrupt. It felt safe, it felt specific, and it was so far from Barbie stuff that we'd seen online that it landed really hard with that one powerful word, you. The result? Dove's sales jumped from 2.5 billion to 4 billion in just a few years, all because they changed the freaking words that they used. And here's the thing, trust isn't something that you can buy. Yes, it's something you can build, but more so, it's something that you can signal, and you can do it in seconds. Because with the right words, you can bypass your prospect's BS filter and speak straight to the trust center in their brain. And here's why this matters more than ever. Research shows buyers now do up to 87% of their due diligence before ever even speaking to you. They're judging your trustworthiness from your LinkedIn profile, your website, your posts, and according to the Edelman Trust Barometer, when trust is low, buying cycles drag on indefinitely. When trust is high, deals close 40% faster. So if your words aren't working when you're not in the room, you're losing deals that you're never even going to know about. And that's what today's episode is about. If we haven't met yet, I'm Deirdre Martin. I'm a triple certified award-winning coach and international best-selling author. I help ambitious entrepreneurs make their first million by getting crystal clear on their brand, building uncopyable offers, and creating marketing that actually converts so that they can live the life that they truly want. And today I'm showing you how to build trust and speed up your sales by making minor tweaks to your language. You're going to learn why safe words convert and clever ones repel, how to speak in a way your audience feels in their body, and the one shift that turns your message from ignored to irresistible. So if you're ready to move from overlooked to booked and trusted, let's frickin' go. So here's what's happening more and more. Before a buyer even talks to you, they're scanning your LinkedIn, they're looking at your website, your posts, and the question running subconsciously through their head is this safe? And what's happening is that's their amygdala talking. It's the brain's alarm system, and it's always scanning for threats because every second of every day, our brain is in our Neanderthal state, which is, does this help me survive or thrive? And if your words feel vague or they're hypey, the alarm goes off. And when the alarm's ringing, people will not book a call. But if your words feel safe, tested, or proven, the alarm shuts off because people feel this is safe. This is going to help me survive and thrive. So their brains relax, and then they're going to lean in. A really great example of a company, a well-known brand that did this was Airbnb. In the really early days, their growth stalled because you know the idea of staying in a stranger's home, like it feels a bit ick and unsafe, right? So they shifted their language. Instead of rent a room, they leaned on safety and belonging words like host guarantee, super host, 24/7 support, trusted community, words like that. Those words calmed the brain and they made the unfamiliar feel safe. That shift helped Airbnb grow from this scrappy little startup to valued at over $100 billion. That tiny difference could be the reason someone leans in or keeps on scrolling past your business, your brand, your content, whatever. Naming the unspoken fear and actually answering it with words of safety is one of the fastest ways to earn trust. So if you want more on how to engineer stories that stick, go and listen to episode 143, how to engineer stories that actually stick and why most don't. Which takes us to the next piece. Once you've signaled safety, the next step is to prove that you're credible, and you can do that with specifics. Once a buyer engages in any capacity, the question in their brain shifts to, can I trust this person's expertise? And this is where specificity builds credibility. Now, again, a great brand that did this really exceptionally well was Amazon. They really mastered this. Instead of saying things like fast shipping, they went with ultra specific. 2-day delivery, 4.7 stars from 12,483 reviews. And now what we see today is delivery by Tuesday, the 29th of August. Specifics are harder to fake. They make your promise believable. That's why Amazon Prime today has over 200 million paying subscribers worldwide. That is freaking amazing, right? And I see this play out with my clients all the time. One client, when she came to me and we worked on her messaging, her initial messaging read something along the lines of, I help female leaders overcome burnout. It was fine, but it was pretty vague. So we reworked it into, I help female leaders feel burnout relief in 7 days or less. So another example of this I share for my own business is that a client I had who was attracting clients, but they weren't her ideal clients. And we tweaked her messaging from, I help executive assistants avoid burnout, to, I help executive assistants embrace their badassery and become a strategic partner to their exec. Shortly after that change, this client, she had her highest ever revenue month, making over $36,000. Robert Cialdini, in his book Influence, proved why this works. He showed that specific numbers and details act as credibility triggers. People trust specifics more than generalities because they feel real and not rehearsed. So when you're engaging with a prospect, be it on your sales page, a proposal, or even during a sales conversation, use specificity. Use the exact words, talk about exact time frames, exact numbers, exact results, be really specific. Share proof, use things like case studies or metrics or credentials, and then frame your solution in concrete, measurable terms that decision makers can use to justify the investment internally. Because what happens is that first and foremost, we make that decision on, will this help us survive and thrive? But secondly, what we're doing is then we justify it later with logic. So that credibility piece is the logic that makes the brain say, oh yeah, that was a good decision. And once you've shown safety and credibility, the final piece is connection. And this is where you're making the buyer feel that this is about them and not about you. And what I mean by this is that once a contract is signed, the work isn't done, as you well know. But post-purchase is where long-term trust and referrals are built. Kind of obvious, but the question then becomes, do I feel like this really was for me? So this is where the language of you, as in not me, my, and I, but you, and your, this is where that language matters most. And again, like I'm a total movie buff. If you listen to my episodes or watch the show, you know I'm always talking about movies. And I recently watched the movie Air, which is about Nike and Michael Jordan. And in the movie, it talked about how Nike signed Michael Jordan. And oh my gosh, it's an incredible story. Like Michael Jordan's mom, serious business lady. But Nike showed us the power of this by making one of the boldest moves that had ever been made in sports marketing history. And there's this one scene where Sonny Vaccaro, played by Matt Damon, he's pitching Michael Jordan. And the way he frames the pitch, it was phenomenal. He doesn't sell the shoe, he doesn't sell the company, he doesn't sell the brand. He sells Michael. He sells the client himself, right? He says people don't remember the shoes. People are not going to remember most of the people in this room, but they are going to remember you. They're going to remember the man. He said, you're going to be remembered. And we're going to build a shoe around you, not the other way around. Whereas Michael Jordan had been over to Germany with Adidas, he had spoken to Converse, but he was totally sold on Nike. So for Nike, it wasn't our product, it was your shoe. It was all about you and the brand that you're going to build by being you. And that pitch changed everything in marketing sports. Nike signed Jordan. They built the brand identity around his greatness. And within a year, Air Jordan generated 126 million in sales. Whereas prior to that, Nike had only ever made 3 million in sales from any one shoe. So today, the Jordan brand alone is a multi-billion-dollar empire inside Nike. And here's why this matters for you and how it can work for you too. You don't need to have a global brand like Nike for this to work for you, but it's just literally using words that those brands have used to become the companies that they are. Those things still work today. So words like you, your, with you, and for you, those light up the parts of the brain tied to self-relevance. They make your audience feel like you're speaking directly to them. And when people feel seen, spoken to, and understood, well, then that's where they're like, yes, this was a great decision. This was right for me. So after the sale, not just before the sale, after the sale, use connection words, speak into their story, frame their transformation as their outcome, and don't make it about your product. That's how you turn one-off sales into loyalty referrals and create a legacy business. So let me recap on what we've covered. Before the sale, use safety and authority words like Airbnb did, because remember, buyers are scanning their brains for signals that they can trust you before they'll ever book the call. Second, during the sale, get super specific like Amazon did. My client did, who shifted her message and had her highest ever revenue month, making over $36,000. Specifics shorten buying cycles because they prove credibility. And after the sale, continue to make it personal like Nike did when they built Air Jordan around Michael. They turned one athlete's name into a multi-million-dollar empire. That is the power of words, folks. Okay, so here's the bottom line. According to the Edelman Trust Barometer, when trust is high, buying cycles shrink by up to 40%. When trust is low, deals drag on for months or vanish completely. It takes courage to write words that feel vulnerable and human instead of polished and perfect. But that courage, that's what creates connection. And connection is what sells. So here's what I want you to do next. Pick one sentence in your sales page, on your website, in your LinkedIn bio, on a proposal template, whatever, and rewrite it using a safety word, a specific statistic, or using you language. Do it right now, because that small tweak could unlock your next client. And if you want help writing stories that create instant trust, grab the DRAMATISE Story Builder template at www.deirdremartin.ie/DRAMATISE Story Builder. I'll link it in the show notes too. It's free, it's clear, and it'll change the way you write forever. Thank you so much for listening. Share this episode with one entrepreneur friend who you know just kind of needs to shift their messaging a tiny bit to go from being ignored to being totally freaking irresistible. And don't forget to rate, review, and follow the show wherever you're listening in today. And I know you're not here to blend in, you're here to lead. So let's make your words work harder. Until next time, keep mastering your business.